I'm 78 years old, and I almost destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me. My name is Robert, and I need to tell you about the 5 mistakes that nearly cost me my 53-year marriage to the woman sleeping in the next room. Her name is Carol, and if you saw us together now, holding hands at the grocery store, finishing each other's sentences, laughing at inside jokes from 5 decades ago, you'd think we were one of those lucky couples who figured it out early. We weren't. We were stubborn, proud, and completely clueless about what marriage actually required. We made mistakes so destructive that there were years, entire years, when I wasn't sure we'd see another anniversary. But we learned, eventually, and that's why I'm telling you this story. Because if you're married, or thinking about getting married, you need to know what we wish someone had told us on June 15th, 1971, when we were 25 years old and thought love would be enough to carry us through anything. Let me take you back to 1978, 7 years into our marriage. Carol and I were living in a small apartment in Cleveland, both working full-time, trying to make ends meet. I was a junior accountant. She was a secretary at an insurance company. We had our first real fight that year, and it wasn't about money or in-laws or any of the things people warned us about. It was about the dishes. I had come home from a particularly brutal day at work to find the sink full of dirty dishes. Carol was already home, sitting at the kitchen table, looking exhausted. My first thought wasn't, "Is she okay?" or "How was her day?" It was, "Why didn't she do the dishes?" I didn't say anything that night, but I started keeping score. Mental notes about everything I did around the apartment versus everything Carol did. I took out the trash. That's 1 for me. I paid the bills. That's 2. I fixed the leaky faucet. That's 3. But Carol just sat there when she got home, tired, not contributing equally to our domestic partnership. This went on for months. I built up a case in my mind about how I was carrying more than my fair share of the load. And when Carol would ask me to help with something, folding laundry, grocery shopping, anything, I'd think, what about everything I already do? The resentment grew like a cancer between us. What I didn't know, what I was too proud and too stupid to notice, was that Carol was keeping her own scorecard. She cooked every single meal. She did every load of laundry. She cleaned the bathroom, organized our closets, remembered to call both sets of parents. She managed our social calendar, bought birthday gifts for my family members, kept track of when we needed to schedule doctor appointments. The explosion came in October of 1978. I had come home to find the apartment messy. Magazines on the coffee table, shoes by the door, the everyday lived-in look of 2 people with demanding jobs. I made some comment about how hard it was to relax in a cluttered space. Carol lost it. She screamed, "You want to talk about cluttered? How about cluttered with all the things I do that you never notice? How about cluttered with the mental load of running our entire life while you keep score of taking out the trash?" That fight lasted 3 hours. We both said things we regretted. But in the aftermath, when we finally calmed down and really talked, I realized how wrong I'd been. Marriage isn't a transaction where you keep track of who contributed what. It's a partnership where sometimes one person carries more. And that's not only okay, it's necessary. The second mistake nearly ended us 10 years later. By 1988, we had been married 17 years, and I had convinced myself that Carol would be perfect if she would just change a few small things about herself. Carol is naturally anxious. She worries about things that might happen, plans for contingencies I would never think of, needs more reassurance than I do. For years I saw this as a character flaw that needed fixing. I would say things like, "Just relax," or "You worry too much," or "Why can't you just go with the flow?" At the same time, Carol was trying to change me. I'm naturally optimistic, sometimes unrealistically so. I make decisions quickly, don't always think through consequences, believe things will work out even when there's no evidence they will. Carol saw this as irresponsibility and spent years trying to make me more cautious, more practical, more like her. We were exhausting each other. Every conversation became an opportunity for improvement suggestions. I'd come home excited about a new opportunity at work, and Carol would immediately start listing all the ways it could go wrong. She'd share a worry about our finances, and I'd dismiss it with, "Everything will be fine," instead of actually listening to her concerns. The breaking point came during a vacation to Florida in 1988. We had planned this trip for months, saved up for it, looked forward to a week of relaxation and reconnection. Instead, we spent 7 days trying to turn each other into different people. Carol wanted to plan our daily activities, research restaurants, make reservations. I wanted to wake up each morning and see what felt right, explore spontaneously, be open to whatever came up. We fought about it every single day. By the 4th day, we were barely speaking. That's when Carol said something that changed everything. "Robert, I fell in love with someone who believed everything would work out beautifully. Why are you trying to take that away from me? And I don't understand why you fell in love with someone who thinks ahead and then spend all your time trying to make me stop." She was right. We had fallen in love with each other as we were, then spent years trying to eliminate the very qualities that had attracted us in the first place. Her careful planning wasn't neurosis. It was how she showed love, by trying to make sure good things happened for us. My optimism wasn't naivety. It was how I showed love, by believing in our future together. We stopped trying to change each other after that trip. It wasn't easy. Old habits die hard. But we started appreciating our differences instead of fighting them. Now Carol handles the planning, and I handle the spontaneous additions. She researches our vacations thoroughly, and I surprise her with unexpected detours along the way. We complement each other instead of competing with each other. The third mistake was about communication, or rather, the lack of it. For too many years, I let small irritations build up inside me without saying anything, thinking I was being noble by not starting fights over minor issues. In 1995, Carol started a new job that required her to work late twice a week. On those nights, she would call me around 6 p.m. to let me know she'd be home around 8. But she never actually got home until 8:30 or 9, sometimes later. Traffic, last-minute meetings, whatever, there were always reasons. I never said anything about it. I figured it was her job. She was working hard. These things happen. But inside, I was keeping track. Every late night was another small irritation added to the pile. I'd make dinner for myself, eat alone, clean up alone, and feel progressively more resentful. This went on for 8 months. 8 months of me saying, "No problem, honey, I understand," when she called to say she'd be late, while internally building a case about how her work was more important than our time together. The explosion came over something completely unrelated. Carol asked me to pick up her prescription on my way home from work, and I snapped. "I'm not your personal assistant," I said, which was completely out of proportion to the request. "I have my own life and my own responsibilities." Carol was stunned. "Where is this coming from? You never said picking up prescriptions was a problem." "It's not about the prescription," I said, and then everything came pouring out. 8 months of resentment about late dinners, missed evenings, feeling like her job mattered more than our marriage. All of it came out as an attack, an accusation that she didn't care about me or our relationship. If I had just said something earlier, Hey, honey, I know work is demanding, but when you're late, I feel like we're missing time together. Is there any way we can figure out better communication about timing? We could have solved it in one conversation. Instead, I let it fester until it came out as an explosion that hurt both of us. We learned to speak up earlier after that. Not aggressively, but honestly. This is bothering me. Can we talk about it? It feels awkward at first, but it's so much better than the alternative. The fourth mistake was treating our marriage like it could run on autopilot. After about 20 years together, we fell into a routine that felt comfortable but was actually dangerous. We knew each other so well, had been through so much together, that we just assumed the relationship would sustain itself. We stopped dating each other. We stopped really talking beyond logistics. Who was picking up groceries? What time was the dentist appointment? Did you remember to call the insurance company? We became roommates who happened to share a bed. The wake-up call came in 2003, when our close friends Jim and Linda divorced after 28 years of marriage. Everyone was shocked because they seemed fine, stable, settled. But Linda told Carol later that they had been fine, just fine. Not happy, not connected, just existing next to each other. And one day Linda realized she didn't want to spend her remaining years just existing. That terrified both of us. We looked at our own relationship and realized we were dangerously close to the same place. We were polite with each other, cooperative, but we weren't really connecting. We had stopped being curious about each other's inner lives, stopped sharing our dreams and fears, stopped putting energy into romance and intimacy. So we made changes. We started having dinner at the table instead of in front of the TV. We instituted a weekly date night. Nothing fancy, sometimes just driving to get ice cream and sitting in the car talking. But it was time focused on each other instead of on tasks or obligations. We started asking each other real questions again. What's something that made you happy this week? What are you worried about? What are you looking forward to? Simple questions, but they reconnected us to each other's ongoing inner lives. Your marriage needs attention. It needs care and feeding and intentional nurturing. It won't thrive if you ignore it, no matter how much love you started with. The fifth and most destructive mistake was forgetting that we were on the same team. In our arguments, especially during those middle years, it felt like we were opponents. Every disagreement became a battle where one person had to win and one person had to lose. I remember a fight we had in 1999 about whether to refinance our house. Interest rates were dropping and I wanted to take advantage of them. Carol was worried about the fees and the paperwork and the possibility that we'd end up worse off somehow. Instead of working together to figure out the best decision for our family, we turned it into a contest of wills. I gathered evidence to support my position, marshaled arguments, prepared rebuttals to her concerns. She did the same from her side. We weren't trying to make the best decision together. We were each trying to prove that we were right and the other person was wrong. The argument went on for weeks. We brought other people into it, asking friends and family members to validate our positions. It became about winning, about being proven right, about showing that the other person's judgment was flawed. We finally refinanced, and it turned out well financially. But the damage to our relationship lasted much longer than any savings we earned. We had treated each other like adversaries instead of partners. The shift happened gradually, but the turning point was when Carol's mother got sick in 2001. Suddenly, we had a real problem that required us to work together, navigating healthcare systems, making difficult decisions about care, supporting Carol through the grief and stress of watching her mother decline. We couldn't fight about it because it was too important. We had to talk, really talk. We had to listen to each other, compromise, support each other. And in doing that, we remembered that we were on the same team. Not Robert versus Carol, but Robert and Carol together, facing whatever life threw at us. Now when we disagree as teammates who want the same outcome. What's best for our marriage and our family? We say things like, "Help me understand your perspective," instead of, "You're wrong." We look for solutions instead of looking for ways to prove our points. I'm 78 years old now. Carol is 77. We've been married for 53 years, and I can honestly say that our marriage is stronger now than it was when we were young and thought we had all the answers. We're not perfect. We still make mistakes, still get frustrated with each other, still sometimes fall back into old patterns. But we know what we're doing now. We catch ourselves, we correct course, we choose each other every single day. If I could go back and talk to that 25-year-old man getting married in 1971, I would tell him these 5 things. Stop keeping score. Marriage isn't a transaction where you track who contributes what. Sometimes she'll carry more, sometimes you will, and both are necessary and good. Accept who she is. You fell in love with her as she was. Don't spend your marriage trying to change her into someone else. Say the hard things before they become explosive. Don't let small irritations build up into relationship-threatening resentments. Speak up early, kindly, honestly. Never stop dating your wife. Your marriage needs attention, care, intentional nurturing. Don't let it run on autopilot. Remember you're on the same team. Every problem, every decision, every challenge, you're supposed to tackle it together, not against each other. These aren't small things. These are the mistakes that almost cost us everything. But they're also fixable mistakes, learnable lessons, patterns you can change if you're willing to do the work. Carol and I wasted years learning these lessons the hard way. We hurt each other, we grew apart, we nearly gave up. But we didn't give up, and now we're grateful for every day we have together. You don't have to make the same mistakes we made. You can learn from our failures and build something stronger from the beginning. Marriage is work, but it's the best work you'll ever do, and it's worth doing well.